Hello YouTube. So we are going to be doing something different today, and we are going to be doing a top 10 list of the games I have streamed. Now I've been streaming now for a little over 3 years, and in that time I have streamed 18 games total. Saying that out loud is a terrible number. It should be much more, but it is what it is. And we are going to be ranking, the top 10 of those. Now, one real quick caveat is, of those 18 games, we are only going to be ranking games that I went into completely blind and played first time on stream. So certain games that I played before, like Skyrim and Resident Evil 4, we're not going to count those. It's just going to be the 10, like I said, brand new games to me. So without further ado, we're going to kick it off here with number 10. Starting with number 10, and boy howdy did this one hurt, it's going to be Halo 5, and I am going to be perfectly transparent here. I'm a huge Halo fanboy. I love the original trilogy. I grew up with those games. That was my first exposure to like online gaming. So it has a special place in my heart, but Halo 5 just was not it. And I can honestly say, out of all the games I have streamed, I would say Halo 5 was probably the least enjoyable. And it's not that it's a bad game, because technically sound, it still is Halo, it still has pretty tight gunplay, it's pretty tight mechanics and all that, but just story-wise, they missed the boats. Could not care less about the whole blue team trying to get down Master Chief. The ending with the twists with Cortana just didn't really click with me. I honestly can't even tell you, mission or a set piece from the campaign. Every other Halo up to this point, I could at least, maybe not Halo 4, but every other Halo up to that point, I could at least tell you something about it that stands out. This game just kind of blends together, you do have Master Chief, you do have some of the pre-existing characters and weapons and all that, but it just was not for me. I hope Halo can kind of get back to where it was. Infinite's, I don't know, I've only played the multiplayer on it. It's fun, but just, once again, not really scratching that original Halo trilogy itch. So, Halo 5, the worst game I have streamed in my tenure. Moving on to number 9, and this is going to be Abzu. Now, this was a game I knew very kind of little about. I played another one of, I believe it's that game company, catalog, but in Journey, and I love the crap out of Journey. And it was definitely one of those more experiential games, not really a whole lot of gameplay to it. It's more just kind of getting out there and exploring and interacting with the world. Yeah, Abzu is kind of like Journey, just underwater, and it was a perfectly fun, kind of enjoyable experience. I love the ocean, so I love that underwater mechanic and all that, but it was a short game. It was more of an experiential game. Like I said, I probably wouldn't go back and replay it. So it's beautiful to look at, and even the soundtrack, phenomenal soundtrack. I really enjoyed that as well. But just like I said, as a game itself, kind of ranks lower, so that's why it slots in at the number 9. Moving on to number 8, we have another experiential game. That's going to be Coffee Talk. Coffee Talk, I knew nothing about. I believe I got it through Games with Gold, so knew really nothing about it. I just kind of looked at it. It had a cool kind of indie aesthetic to it. I'm a big fan of coffee, so I figured, hey, why not give it a shot? So yeah, I enjoyed it, and it definitely, like I said, was not necessarily a game I would gravitate towards, but it was fun. It was a cool kind of experience getting to be a barista, a virtual barista. That was fun. I did really like the world of, you're in Seattle, but it's like Dungeons and Dragons-esque. You have like goblins and sea creatures and all this, so it was kind of cool mixing that fantasy with reality in Seattle. And then obviously, once again, it's kind of like Abzu. There's not too much kind of gameplay to it. It's all just kind of dialogue. You're kind of directing these conversations. You do have kind of some interactivity in terms of crafting drinks with certain ingredients, and then doing some latte art, which is kind of interesting and unique. But like I said, this would not necessarily be a game I gravitate towards. It wasn't one that I didn't enjoy. And some of the writing and storylines, I think there was a like music festival that completely goes haywire, and then there was some also poignant, like there was like a father-daughter mechanic, and it was kind of really emotional, and you get kind of invested in some of these characters. So it's definitely interesting, but that's definitely one, once again, I definitely wouldn't replay. And I know they did a Coffee Talk 2, so it definitely did well enough to warrant a sequel. Maybe one day I'll stop in and check it out and see if anything changes, but it was a fun experience. But yeah, just one I wouldn't necessarily go back to. Moving on to number 7, we have Tales from the Borderlands. And now going into this game, I knew a lot about the Tales series of games. I know if there's an IP out there, they have probably done a game in it. I also know a lot of them got pretty high reviews, and a lot of people seem to like it. I know a lot of people started with, obviously, The Walking Dead, and then they moved into, gosh, I think they've done Game of Thrones, Marvel, Batman. They've done a bunch. But yeah, this is my first one, first Tales experience. I really enjoyed it. I don't know. I'm a big Borderlands fan. Obviously, I like the classic Borderlands game. That's shooting and looting. This is all dialogue, so very different in that regard. But I really enjoyed it. It was really well written. A lot of it was really funny. There was a bit where you got to answer with a Cowboy Bebop reference, and it made me laugh so loud. It was funny. But yeah, it was just really smart writing. It was really funny. There's this whole bit where you do shootouts with finger guns, and then obviously you see some of Handsome Jack and all that lead into the main series. So that's really cool that they really incorporated it and made it part of like the canon. And then there was this bit where a character that you think is dead is not, and it really just, it was like a not laugh out loud. My jaw was kind of like open. I was like, holy cow, he's alive. So they really did good there. And I mean, it's cool because obviously you get to pick and kind of dictate how these conversations go. So you do get to kind of influence, obviously not the main narrative, but kind of how stuff flows. So that's really cool. I really enjoyed it. I do have some other Tales games I might like to kind of dip my feet into. But yeah, this is definitely a cool start to it, but that's going to rank number 7 on my list. On to number 6, we have, I would argue, kind of the first real gameplay game, and that's going to be Golf Story. I didn't know too much about this. I know the game got pretty high reviews. I know it kind of has an old school Mario Golf, Hot Shots Golf game mechanics to it, so I figure, hey, what the heck? I'm a big golfer personally, so I love that. I love video games. I figure, why not? I really like this game because of the RPG elements included. I would have wished they would have included more, because it's kind of like once you kind of unlock the best clubs, and there's really no point to kind of mess around with it. But once again, it kind of matches with the Tales from the Borderlands, and it had a really funny story. It kind of puts you in all these random scenarios. There's like, you have to like do drone golfing. There's a wizard you have to fight. There's this storyline with like your ex and like trying to, you know, make you jealous and all that. So you kind of hops around all these places, but pretty fun golf gameplay. If you played another like Hot Shots golf game, you kind of know the classic meter golf swing mechanic, and I really enjoy it. It may not be for everybody, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. My only gripe, I would say, is kind of include more RPG elements into it, kind of broaden it out if they could. There were some kind of technical difficulties as well. I don't know if that was just my experience, but some of the audio was kind of missynced and all that. So there was that. But like I said, fun golf game, fun writing, fun RPG. Just, if they would have expanded on it, I think it could have been even better. Moving on to number 5, and that is going to be Okami. Now, I do have to cheat here a little because I actually am, at the time of this video, currently still streaming Okami, so I have not beaten it. So unless the final boss and the last kind of chapter completely tanks, I can't imagine it's going to change my ranking of it. But I am just having an absolute blast with Okami. It may be because I just got back from Japan when I started streaming it, so maybe it was just the timeline, but it just is a really fun, classic Zelda game. I really love the art style. I really love the Japanese mythology behind it. yeah, it just is a really fun game. I like that there is also different elements. There's like this fishing mini game. There's this digging mini game. The digging mini game is a little stressful, but you do get to like go feed all these animals. Obviously, you unlock different weapons and techniques and stuff throughout the game. But it just always seems like I'm unlocking and finding new stuff. I'll go back to a older area and I'll find treasure or stuff that I can unlock now that I have these new techniques and abilities and all that. There is a lot of drawing in it. I wish as the game kind of went on, some of that became a little more streamlined. That would be nice. Just you don't have to constantly go back to the screen and then draw the same symbols over and over again. But yeah, I mean, it's a cool mechanic. It's very beautifully done. The game is great. I would argue this is one of those video games that makes the case for video games as art. I also know that this game was, when it first came out back in 2006, 2007, I believe it was nominated or in a lot of like Game of the Year discussions. Totally see that. I think this was the same year Twilight Princess came out, and honestly, I think I'm having more fun with this than Twilight Princess, if I'm going to be 100% honest. I will say, and this may just be a product of its time, some of the dialogue, it's funny, but it's a little cringy, mainly with how one of the characters talks about other female characters, and like I said, some of it is funny, some of it's just kind of, teenage boy humor, which, maybe it's, like I said, a product of its time, but playing it now in 2024, you're just like, ugh. But still doesn't track from it's a phenomenal game, really enjoying it, and I know there's not going to be a sequel, but I kind of wish there was.
A few moments later.
Moving on to number 4, we have Slime Rancher. This was another Games with Gold game, so I didn't really know too much going into it. It just kind of looked fun and cute and exciting, so I figured why not, and I played it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was an absolute blast. I played a lot of like farming games growing up, like Harvest Moon, Stardew Valley, and I would argue this is a farming game. I know it's more of like a rancher game, but very similar mechanics, but I just had an absolute blast with it. I love the art style. It's very cutesy. All of the slimes, different designs are like really unique and stand out from one another, so it's really cool. And it's also cool to see like once you kind of unlock more stuff, you can like automate your farm, so a lot of the mundane tasks get taken care of and gives you more chance to kind of go out and explore the world. It has a really good sense of progression in that regard. I would also say the story itself is kind of poignant because it's a girl, Beatrix, and she just is kind of like this lone rancher. She's by herself. She finds all these like stories and letters and stuff, and it really, some of it's kind of emotional. It's really just like the isolation and being by yourself, but trying to kind of build something up it's really unique, it's really fun. I don't know necessarily if this is a game I will go back to. There were a couple achievements that I didn't finish out, but I kind of feel like I've done everything in that game. I know they did do a sequel, which I may dip my toes into because hopefully they expanded upon it. But yeah, really fun game. I would argue it's one of those games that once it kind of clicks for you, it just clicks and you just kind of roll with it. And it was really fun experience. So Slime Rancher going in at number 4. Going in at my number 3 spot, it's going to be my hottest take of this list, but it is going to be Breath of the Wild. And I'm going to start out by saying 100%, I thought this game was fun. I enjoyed it, but there were some things that I personally didn't like. Maybe I'm old school, maybe I'm getting older, and the old school Zelda formula just clicks with me more, but the open world, I thought it was fun to explore. I'm definitely not going to knock it for that. It's probably its biggest strength, I would argue, is just see anything, you can go explore it. I just felt like the world itself was not super lived in. I know there were a couple villages here and there, but none of the characters really stood out to me. Like, I would argue, if you asked me about Ocarina of Time and like a character or a place in there, I could tell you, yes, they were there, they gave you this quest and all that. Same thing with Wind Waker. This game, it kind of blended together in that regard for me. I would also argue weapon durability was not as big as an issue for me. I know a lot of people made a big deal about it. It wasn't that big a detractor for me. But I would argue the fact that there wasn't a lot of classic dungeons and like unlocking new item or abilities kind of to me halted that sense of progression. I know obviously in the Great Plateau you get the 4 powers, and then once that's over you're kind of free to go. And like I said, that's probably the biggest draw, but it just didn't click for me. I will also say 100% my view of Breath of the Wild is probably a self-inflicted view, because obviously 100%ing it, the Korok seeds, that was, I think I streamed for what, like 60 streams or something like that, maybe 50 streams. That was probably the majority of what we were doing was that. So self-inflicted wound there, but even the shrines, like, that was fun, but they all kind of blended together. They didn't have kind of a unique identity, like the old school Zelda's different dungeons. You knew where you were at. This one was just shrine number 1, shrine number 2, shrine number 3. Same thing really with Divine Beast. Like, obviously they were different, but yeah, they just all kind of blended together. I will say the combat was unique in the sense that all these different mechanics came together in terms of, I've seen some crazy videos where like you can freeze enemies or strap this stuff to them, send them up in the air, shoot an arrow at them, and do all these crazy combos. So it's really cool that it gives you that freedom, but for me, it just was more classic, hacking and slashing as you go. But yeah, Breath of the Wild, number 3. Gonna die on this hill. Great game, but to me, a little overrated. Moving on to my number 2 game, and that is going to be Dark Souls. So once again, this is kind of a cheat to include it on my top 10 because I did play it originally maybe for an hour, and I was like, this game's stupid, and I left. So, I mean, it is 99.9% new, so that's why I'm including it. And this is also a game that's going to be near and dear to my heart because this is the first game that I actually streamed. So it always is going to resonate with me in that regard. I will say it is actually funny watching my Dark Souls stream just because it was my first one and technically I was still trying to figure stuff out. It is kind of cringy to watch in terms of like audio and my edits and all that, but hopefully we grew and progressed, so hopefully the streams got better as we got on. But in terms of gameplay, I mean, like, what more can be said? It created a genre. It created, so many memes. It is just a fun game. It's one of those games that once it kind of clicks, you're rolling with it and you just get invested and you learn that, hey, don't do this, do that. So it's a very fair combat system. It's very rage-inducing. You're going to die a lot, obviously. But yeah, I never felt any of my deaths were kind of cheap by any stretch. It will say, and maybe this is just me, I wasn't as invested as I should be. The lore, I know a lot of the lore is kind of told through item descriptions and like books and all that. I didn't get that involved in it, so I couldn't tell you the backstory of like, oh, this person or this character, all that. Like, I know the DLC had a lot of like kind of cool call outs and connections and all that, and it all just kind of went over my head. But overall, I think the game itself kind of stands on its own as gameplay. Because like I said, I don't really know too much about the world and the lore, obviously. Like, I don't know who Ornstein and Smaug Smoke. I don't know the correct pronunciation, but I can tell you I fought them in that area. So it's just one of those games that clicks with you. If it clicks, it clicks. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And second time around, it clicked with me. Really enjoyed it. Had a fun time. I really considered doing a second stream of it. I have the whole Soul series that I will stream, but I thought about doing a second playthrough of Dark Souls with a different build. Probably won't happen just because I have so many games on my back catalog, but very fun game. Really much enjoyed it. And yeah, it's my first game ever. I actually have a mug here, if I don't spill coffee on me. The You Died mug. So I got merch. That's how much I liked it. So my number one game that I played brand new on stream is gonna be Cuphead. And it's funny, this coming right after Dark Souls, because I would make the argument this is kind of like a Souls game. Yeah, a lot of death over here. Same thing with Dark Souls though. They're fair deaths, they're not cheap. But I just love this game through and through. Love the art style. I'm a huge like vintage Disney fan, so I just love that. I believe it's hand-drawn art style. The music of this game as well just stands out to me. I play so much of it on Spotify. It's probably one of my number one like albums I play is the Cuphead soundtrack. But yeah, the gameplay, very much addicting. It is tough. I died a lot. It is very fair though, so I do like it because it does have a good RPG. It's not an RPG, but you do unlock new guns and new techniques and stuff, so you do get better as you progress, and the platforming levels are fun. I never really grew up with too many 2D platformers. I played like Mario, but never Mega Man or anything like that. I didn't really have that sense of connection there, but I really can't sing enough praises. I just had an absolute blast with this game. I don't know if they'll make a sequel. Highly doubtful. I know it took forever for the DLC to come out. I really enjoyed the DLC, going to the whole different island, including Miss Chalice and all that. It really reinvented how you played the game because she had different techniques. She had a double jump and like a dodge roll and everything. So it really is so different from... I played it back to back, but if I didn't and had to come back to it, it's like a whole new game almost, you know, with all the different bosses and everything. So yeah, this is another game I would argue, you know, video games is art. Obviously the art style, but music-wise as well, and just stands out from the crowd. So my number one game is gonna be Cuphead. So there you have it, folks. That is gonna be my top 10 games that I streamed brand new on the stream for the first time. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you like this video. This is my first kind of top 10 video, so maybe we'll do more of them in the future. Maybe I'll go back and include all the games, not just the brand new ones for me. And yeah, let me know down below. Comment what you guys think of my list. Is it good? Is it trash? Let me know what you guys think. I have a feeling I'm going to catch some flack for that number 3 pick. But anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think, and see you next time.